right? So commitment comes before courage, and courage comes before confidence. So the only way you can get to become a confident investor or confidently achieve anything or do anything in life is to go through and have a vision, be committed enough to that vision, be courageous enough to act on that vision and learn the things that you need to learn through the whole process. And that could take 6 months, it could take 6 years, but you still need to have all of that before you end up at confidence and being confident at anything that it is that you want to achieve.
And now I'm wondering, since you have your online community, guys, check out his website, buyingonlinebusinesses.com. We're going to have that in the show notes. The link is there. Just click on it. If you see his website, and I saw it there, you have your inner circle and you have your community. And now I'm wondering, you're mentoring and coaching all of these people, and they're buying websites and they're growing, but I'm sure they started somewhere where they really didn't know where to go. And they're like, hey, Jaryd, I have a couple of questions. And now what I want to ask you is, what are those questions? What are the most common questions that are asked of you for new people coming into your inner circle, coming into your community?
Awesome. I've got these on my page, on an old page actually. So what I'll do is I'll bring them up right now and we'll go through them. Normally they're like, where would I go to buy a website business, and how much should I spend on a website business? How much money does a website business actually make? So let me be more specific. Are these questions that they want to ask me prior to joining my community, or are these questions that they're wanting answered prior to learning how to invest in a website?
The context would be more if they're already part of your community. They're looking at you as their coach.
If they're already a part of my community and they're already learning a bunch from me. Now, this is kind of a good question, because within my community, there's a bunch of trainings and lessons that do answer all the questions they have. So I've had people that go through and I was just telling somebody else on a podcast this morning that I was on, people will go through my course content and my program, and they'll go away and learn everything. They'll buy a website, and I will never have heard from them at all. And they'll finish up and they won't even tell me that they've bought a website, which is a shame, because I'd like to celebrate with them, and I'd like to celebrate that with the rest of my community. Sometimes I get random emails from like, oh, hey, thanks so much for your help. I bought a website, 3 months ago. I'm like, well, you didn't even tell me. But so a lot of the questions do get answered within the course content. There are some common questions, and normally these common questions are like I said before, which website investor would you buy from? Which website broker would you buy from if you weren't this specific website business? So we got a few different business models, and then I would sort of put them in the right direction for the business model that they want to buy and the amount of money they want to spend on a business. Then I point them in the right direction for that particular website broker where they could buy that particular business. Other questions are around SEO and hosting, and also hiring VAs, and a range of different questions happen within the community. And it's quite cool.
There are people who you mentioned they're so successful already, doesn't even reach out to you, and they've already been able to buy their own website. But I'm sure there are those people who are struggling in your inner circle, struggling in your community, and they do reach out for you for help. I may be one of those people, because I am really not a very fast learner. So I assume that these people are, they're struggling entrepreneurs. They might be leaders in their own right. I wonder, what do they usually struggle with?
So you're right. A lot of people, that join my community have a job. And I think we should probably keep this separate to maybe the inner circle and the community, because they are separate products and separate services. Sure. Within the inner circle, this is my mastermind. This is only application only, and I'm very selective with who I have, because I can only work with a certain amount of people, and I speak to them every single week. So their questions and concerns come up, every single week, and we also have one-on-one coaching. But if we're to do, just the people that, kind of struggling in terms of wanting to buy a website business, the biggest thing that they really struggle with is mindset, having the right mindset to go the distance. Because you know what it's like in business. Business is hard. Sometimes business is really hard. Sometimes life is really hard. And having the right mindset to deal with these things that pop up is absolutely critical. And I think that's what most of the people within my community that just start working with me really struggle with the most, where they may struggle with valuing how important it is to schedule time to go through the lessons, valuing how important it is to schedule time to look at website businesses to buy. And then also, if there's a hiccup in life, still staying strong and being committed towards hitting that goal. And, I've had people that have bought businesses and kind of been a bit overwhelmed with, running the business, and it just wasn't for them. And they sort of fell off track. So I teach some mindset principles on how to stay committed. I call it 3 C's to achievement. Okay. So you need to have a vision first. Commitment comes before courage, and courage comes before confidence. So the first thing you need is a vision, which if you don't have a vision, then you can't be committed, right? Because what are you committed to? You don't know what you actually want to achieve. And then once you're committed, you got your vision, you're committed. Then only after you're committed can you be courageous, right? So commitment comes before courage, right? Now, once you're courageous, you're out like, cool, I'm courageous enough to throw myself into the deep end and go away and learn this subject and, fall down, scratch my knees, pick myself back up. But if you forget what your vision is, then you can't be committed and you can't be courageous again. So these are the things you need to have. And only once you've been through, you got the vision and you've been through the commitment phase and the courage phase where you've learned everything, you've scratched your knees up, you've picked yourself back up, you've gone through, you've learned the theory, you put it into action, you've learned everything you need to know, then you've had experience, and then you can become confident. Right? So commitment comes before courage, and courage comes before confidence. So the only way you can get to become a confident investor or confidently achieve anything or do anything in life is to go through and have a vision, be committed enough to that vision, be courageous enough to act on that vision and learn the things that you need to learn through the whole process. And that could take 6 months, it could take 6 years, but you still need to have all of that before you end up at confidence and being confident at anything that it is that you want to achieve. So that's the biggest thing that anybody in my community and anybody in life struggles with.
That is so much wisdom right there, guys. If you are listening, listen to that. You are already quite full just by sticking to that. Have vision, be committed to it, and then you can be courageous and confident. And commitment, I just want to add this little bit. It's a joke that I've heard way before. And there's the farmer, the chicken, and the pig. And the farmer had a lot of guests come in and he said to the chicken, well, what can you give? And the chicken said, hey, I can provide you eggs, no problem, take them. And then he looked at the pig and said, well, what can you give? And the pig, of course, had to give himself up. And the lesson there is the chicken was willing to help, but the pig was committed. And commitment is, it is like that, where you give 100% of yourself. And when your mindset is such, then you're courageous and you take bold action. You become more confident. I hear you. That is very, very good lesson right there. And I wonder what were the things. So this pandemic happened, the lockdown happened. You've been doing podcasts. You had your recording earlier. I'm sure you're busy, but I wonder what are the things that you realized during this lockdown? Because you've been traveling around the world and suddenly, boom, no travels. And none for like a very long time. What are the things you're realizing, and what were the things that you realized early on when the lockdown started?
It's really is. I think it comes back to what we're just saying, is having the mindset to deal with things and that pop up in life. Now, the pandemic's been really bad. And what I'm really realizing is that a lot of people in the world don't have the greatest level of emotional intelligence, and they're very irrational and they react to things quite easily. And it's a shame because they put a lot of stress on themselves and a lot of worry, and that turns into anxiety and depression. And, in Australia, our mental health levels have, gone through the roof, and in terms of depression and anxiety and stress and worry. And I really feel that's because people aren't equipped to just deal with what's going on and stay solid and centered and grounded. So I've read this awesome book by this guy named Ryan Holiday. It's one of my favorite books, and I recommend that to all the people that I work with and everybody, a lot of people that I speak to, and I give it out, and it's teaches a level of emotional intelligence, and that the obstacle is the way that we can learn from that obstacle so much. Like we can reflect back on, what's happening and all that sort of stuff, and just stay centered, solid, centered and grounded. And in that book, there's a thing that's littered through the ages and littered through the Bible and littered through so many things, and it's called the Serenity Prayer. And the Serenity Prayer is, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I feel that a lot of people are not accepting what's going on and believe they have some level of control. So they're freaking out and stressing and worrying about it. They can control they can control some things within their own measure, and they need to be courageous enough to do so. But the biggest thing is knowing the difference, like having the wisdom to know the difference between what you can control and what you can't control. Right now, you can't control the pandemic. You can't control what other people are doing, but everybody's freaking out about it and they're emotionally invested in it, which means it brings them down to a very low level, which means if they're at a very low level, they can't do things properly in their life. They can't be focused. They can't, give themselves the right energy, love and support to themselves, their friends, their family, because they're freaking out about this thing that they can't control. If you just put that aside and realize I've got no energy for that, then you can stay solid, grounded and centered and work out what can you control within your own environment and focus on that. People are going to be so much more at ease, less stress, less anxiety. And I think that's what I've noticed through the pandemic as well. So I've had people that are clients who were in the community that had to leave because they've gotten family members that had COVID and stuff like that. And, they did the right thing. They left, they had a level of control, took their money and their time focus and helped their loved ones with that. But if they slipped into that position of, I'm freaking out about this pandemic and forgetting about their loved one that needs the extra help, then they're only going to get worse. I think that's really important to understand of what we can control, what we can't control. And that's the biggest thing that I've noticed with the pandemic that's happened is that, especially when I see in the environment of social media land, that people are they're throwing their opinion around like it's going to matter and do something, but it's just not.
How about for yourself, Jaryd? What are some things that you realize that, hey, so this happened and I couldn't do some of these things, but I can do this and that? And I'm sure that there are a lot of changes that have happened to your schedule, to your day-to-day routine. Me and my audience, I'm sure we'd like to know what happened with you.
I've been very lucky with where I live and my personal life and being able to go out and all that sort of stuff. In terms of work, I'm doing the same amount of hours and I'm doing the same type of work. Nothing's changed. If anything, I'm doubling down on producing content and helping people. But that's the same. I have a home office here. My partner works from home. We spend a lot of time with each other. In terms of my local environment, we did have restaurants shut down and we did have restrictions on how many people we could see and if we could have people come to our own home. Through that phase and period, I definitely miss catching up with friends and family because I'm close with friends and family. I've been very lucky that we've been able to go outside and exercise. We still have the social distancing, 1.5 meters away. We don't have to wear masks or anything like that. Yeah, I was able to go surf every morning still. Quite funny. When it first happened, it felt like everybody stopped working and decided, right, because I need to exercise, I'm going to take up surfing. And there was so many people in the water, it was crazy.
Oh my God.
It slowly decided to calm down, but that's what changed in my environment, was not being able to see friends and family for probably a month. What's it been like in the Philippines? I know you've had different waves and some craziness happen.
Oh man, we are number one right now in Southeast Asia in terms of people infected. It is very sad, and we went on a second lockdown from July 2nd week until yesterday. So we're back at GCQ people can go back to work again, but things haven't improved. I think the government decided to do this because the economy's dying. We have a
Yeah.
45% unemployment rate now from an all-time low of 7% this January. So, unlike you guys there, we have to wear face masks and face shields when I go out of my house. So even if I wanted to like exercise or do a run in my small subdivision, I couldn't do it well because the face masks just inhibit you from breathing properly. So
Yeah, we have in half of our country. So I'm in like the top half, or
mm,
yeah, I'm in the top half. But like, there's one state in our country that they need to. It's been very bad down there, and they've got to wear face masks, and they're only allowed outside for an hour per day. It's really bad down there. So it's a bit different within Australia. But
yeah,
I definitely feel you. I've traveled through Manila and the Philippines, and Vietnam, and masks, and
yeah.
it's yeah, to exercise it would be tough.